Race horses versus wild horses. Is purpose overrated? Imagine a sleek racehorse thundering down the track, muscles rippling under a glossy coat, eyes fixed on the finish line. Bred for speed, trained for victory, every stride is a testament to purpose, winning the race, pleasing the owner, claiming the glory. Now picture a wild horse galloping across untamed plains, mane whipping in the wind, veering left or right on a whim, chasing the horizon not for a prize, but for the sheer thrill of motion. No fences, no riders, no predetermined path. Which one embodies true freedom? Which one lives a fuller life? This metaphor sets the stage for our exploration, the purpose-driven life versus one unbound by grand objectives. In a world obsessed with goals, missions and visions, is purpose truly the holy grail, or is it an overrated chain that binds us? The double-edged sword of purpose, overrated or essential? Let's dive straight into the heart of the debate. Is purpose overrated? On one side, the absence of a clear purpose often leads individuals down treacherous paths. Without a guiding star, people can spiral into self-destructive behaviors. Think endless nights of binge drinking not as a hobby but as an escape, or reckless gambling that drains savings and relationships. There's an unmistakable aura of pessimism that clings to them like fog on a dreary morning. Every opportunity is viewed through a lens of inevitable failure, every success dismissed as fleeting luck. Discipline. It's a foreign concept. Deadlines slip by unnoticed, commitments fade into excuses, and the simplest routines crumble under the weight of apathy. This lack of direction doesn't just affect the individual, it ripples outward. Relationships with loved ones become battlegrounds of frustration, parents wary of unfulfilled promises, partners exhausted by emotional volatility, friends drifting away from the constant negativity. These purpose-lacking souls often attract mirrors of themselves, circles of enablers who reinforce the cycle, swapping stories of what-ifs over cheap coffee. They're prime targets for ideologies that promise salvation with minimal effort. Think viral social media trends preaching hustle culture without the hustle, or passive philosophies like let the universe decide, that demand no real action. In many Indian households, this view is gospel. Elders, shaped by generations of survival in a resource-scarce society, preach that purpose is the antidote to chaos. Beta, find your dharma, they say, echoing ancient texts like the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna urges Arjuna to fulfill his warrior duty. Without it, they argue life devolves into aimless wandering, a surefire recipe for ruin. Yet I disagree for the most part. Purpose isn't always the savior it's cracked up to be. It's often manufactured, inflated, and weaponized in ways that distort reality. Sure, it can provide structure, but at what cost? Blind adherence to a calling can blind us to the nuances of life, turning us into automatons, chasing shadows. The key isn't rejecting purpose outright, but questioning its origins and authenticity. Is it born from genuine self-reflection, or imposed by societal pressures? In my view, the overemphasis on purpose ignores the beauty of fluidity, the joy of serendipity. History is littered with purpose-driven tyrants who wrought destruction, while some of the most innovative minds thrived in purposeful ambiguity. Take Albert Einstein, who once said if we knew what it was we were doing, it would not be called research, would it? His breakthroughs came not from rigid goals but from playful curiosity, a wild horse's roam rather than a racehorse's sprint. Purpose forged in symbols and metaphors, a manufactured mirage. One of the sneakiest ways purpose infiltrates our lives is through symbols and metaphors, elevating the mundane to the divine. Religions and cults excel at this alchemy, transforming appreciation and scrutiny into dogmatic quests. Consider Christianity. The cross, a simple execution tool, becomes a symbol of ultimate sacrifice and redemption. Followers aren't just encouraged to appreciate Jesus' teachings, they're enlisted in a cosmic battle against sin, with eternal salvation as the prize. This creates purpose where scrutiny might reveal historical inconsistencies or ethical dilemmas. Why eternal damnation for finite sins? Instead, believers channel energy into evangelism, tithing and rituals, often at the expense of critical thinking. Cults of personality take this further, weaving charisma into cultish devotion. Jim Jones and his People's Temple promised a utopian purpose, racial equality and communal bliss in Jonestown. Symbols like the rainbow family and metaphors of revolutionary suicide drew thousands, but scrutiny would have exposed the manipulation and abuse. Over 900 died in 1978, not from appreciation of ideals, but from a fabricated purpose that demanded blind loyalty. Similarly, modern influencers like Andrew Tate craft personas around alpha male metaphors, luxury cars as symbols of dominance, turning followers into disciples of hustle without substance. Purpose here isn't organic, it's engineered to fill voids, often leading to echo chambers where questioning is heresy. Even in the realm of mental health, purpose can be a delusion. Schizophrenics frequently experience heightened, inexplicable purposes dictating their actions, a voice commanding them to decode hidden messages in license plates, or a belief they're chosen to avert global catastrophe. John Nash, the mathematician portrayed in A Beautiful Mind, grappled with such visions. His purpose involved cracking Soviet codes that didn't exist. Objectively, this didn't make him better. It isolated him, disrupted his life, and required treatment to reclaim functionality. Yet his story shows how purpose, even illusory, can drive extraordinary focus. The folly? It prioritizes the quest over well-being, turning life into a hallucinated script rather than a lived experience. The folly of unified purpose, actionable ideologies, and their dark side. Now let's define the pitfalls of what I call unified purpose, or an actionable ideology, a collective drive that mobilizes masses but often devours individuality. Its primary folly? The immediate suppression of dissenting views post-inception. Revolutions exemplify this. Born from injustice, they promise liberation but enforce conformity with iron fists. Is it good? Only if it's a direct reaction to a socio-political crisis, like overthrowing a tyrant. Otherwise, it morphs into tyranny itself. Take the French Revolution of 1789. Sparked by famine, inequality, and Enlightenment ideals, it unified the masses under liberté, égalité, fraternité. The bourgeoisie, merchants, and professionals, who profited from the old regime, were targeted, with guillotines claiming thousands during the Reign of Terror. Aristocrats lost heads, properties were seized, and the monarchy crumbled. Did it eradicate starvation and poverty? Hardly. By the early 1800s, a new bourgeoisie emerged, revolutionary leaders, like Napoleon Bonaparte's allies, who amassed wealth through conquests. The difference? Their attire was simpler, sans powdered wigs, but the exploitation persisted. Bread riots continued, and poverty lingered, as Victor Hugo vividly depicts in Les Miserables. The unified purpose solved immediate grievances, but birthed a cycle of power grabs, turning citizens into pawns in endless political chess. Echoes resound in the Maoist revolution in China, 1949 onward. Mao Zedong's ideology eradicated traditional religion, temples razed, monks re-educated, and dismantled capitalist structures, nationalizing industries. The Great Leap Forward promised agrarian utopia, unifying the populace in communal farms. Result? Society became a vast workshop prison. Famine killed tens of millions between 1958 to 1962, as quotas trumped human needs. Dissenters were labeled counter-revolutionaries, sent to Laogai camps for reform through labor. Purpose here unified, but at the cost of expression, art, literature, even family ties were subordinated to the party's line. Today remnants linger in China's surveillance state, where individual dreams bow to collective goals. Not all revolutions were political garb. The Industrial Revolution, late 18th to 19th century, was an economic tsunami that reshaped the West. Unified under progress and profit, it turned Britain and America into mechanized behemoths. Factories mushroomed, railways crisscrossed landscapes, and inventions like the steam engine promised abundance. But people became cogs. Children as young as 5 toiled 16-hour days in mills, evaluated solely by output. Charles Dickens' Hard Times paints this grimly. Workers like Stephen Blackpool, mere statistics in ledgers, with no regard for health or happiness. Life's value? A number on a balance sheet. Pollution choked skies, slums bred disease, and strikes were crushed to maintain the machine's rhythm. Unified purpose industrialized nations, but it dehumanized, leaving scars like child labor laws that came too late. These examples illustrate how unified purpose reduces humans to numbers, expendable units in a grand equation. There's no room for personal expression. Art that doesn't glorify the cause is censored, love that distracts from duty is discouraged. In Nazi Germany, the purpose of Aryan supremacy unified millions, but crushed millions more in concentration camps. Even positive movements, like the civil rights movement in the US, risked this folly. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream unified, but internal debates, e.g., Malcolm X's separatism, were sidelined to maintain momentum. The lesson? Purpose unifies, but unchecked, it homogenizes, stifling the diversity that sparks true innovation. Life without purpose, the realm of reactionaries and carpe diem spirits. So what of a life untethered from purpose? I'm not talking about the substance user's hollow quest, chasing highs, whether opioids or alcohol still orbits an objective, albeit destructive. No, I mean those who navigate by instinct, serving or obstructing others based on momentary feelings. True reactionaries, responding to the world's pulse without a script, and carpe diem types seizing the day, sans long-term agendas. These wild horses thrive in spontaneity. A conversation sparks an idea. They dive in, collaborating or clashing as emotions dictate. No 5-year plans, just the now. Literature abounds with examples. J. Gatsby in F. Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby chases fleeting dreams, but his purpose is illusion. The true carpe diem shines in bohemian artists like Pablo Picasso, who painted not for legacy, but for the joy of creation, pivoting styles on whims. Or consider Diogenes the Cynic, ancient Greek philosopher who lived in a barrel, mocking society's purposes. When Alexander the Great offered him anything, he replied, "Stand out of my sunlight." His life, pure reaction, obstructing pretension with wit. In modern times, think of digital nomads ditching corporate ladders for van life, choosing destinations by mood. Or activists like those in the Occupy Wall Street movement, reacting to inequality without rigid ideologies. Tents pitched, debates flowed, but no unified manifesto. Their power lay in fluidity, adapting to police crackdowns or public sentiment on the fly. The essentials for thriving without purpose. For such existences to flourish, certain conditions are non-negotiable. First, a bedrock of resources, financial cushions from inheritances, passive income, or supportive networks. Without this, aimlessness devolves into survival struggles. Take trust fund kids turned artists. Resources free them to experiment, like Jean-Michel Basquiat, who rose from street graffiti to fame through raw, purpose-free expression. Second, a pivot from failed purposes often catalyzes this shift. Burnout from high-stakes careers, doctors quitting medicine after moral injury, or entrepreneurs post-bankruptcy leads to re-evaluation. Elon Musk's early ventures flopped before SpaceX, but imagine if he'd embraced wild horse freedom instead of relentless purpose. Third, minimal responsibilities, no dependence demanding structure, no debts enforcing discipline. This lack means no daily dopamine hits from checkboxes, but it fosters presence. Psychologically, as Daniel Kahneman's research in Thinking Fast and Slow suggests, they operate on System 1 intuition, unburdened by overplanning. Finally, social dynamics are key. Many crave processions, parties, festivals, volunteer gigs for temporary objectives. Burning Man attendees, for instance, build art in the desert, driven by communal vibes, not outcomes. Conversely, isolates like hermits or old army types, veterans retreating post-war, as in Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea, find solace in solitude, reacting to nature's rhythms. Depressed individuals might withdraw similarly, but even there, moments of engagement spark. Intriguingly, when they commit, they excel. Unfettered by result anxiety, they immerse in processes. A chef without a culinary empire dream might experiment wildly, yielding masterpieces. Studies from flow theory by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi show this. Optimal experiences arise from intrinsic engagement, not extrinsic goals. Thus, wild horses often outpace racehorses in creativity and resilience, proving purpose isn't the sole path to success. In conclusion, while purpose offers direction, its overrating ignores the wild horse's untamed vitality. Revolutions teach us unity's perils. Free spirits remind us of life's richness in the moment. Perhaps the ideal lies in balance, harnessing purpose when needed, but galloping free otherwise. After all, in the grand race of existence, sometimes the wild ones cross unseen finish lines first.